what I wanted to do was just comment on a kind of implicit developmental model based in all your practitioner models and skills that you don't know. And as I say, this came about for me through a conversation maybe about 10 years ago with Joseph O'Connor, who was saying that he was working with this guy Otto last, and before about that, it's very, very interesting. I suddenly started going back, well, we do this and we do that, and looking at other developmental models. So basically, this little list, I started writing this list, but well, what is it that we do? This kind of emotional side that you could say was state, emotional intelligence, emotional regulation is sort of in all the models, aren't they? Can you self-regulate your emotions? Things about, can you be empathetic? Can you step in to see something from other, even from like Piaget's work with small children, that idea, that lovely thing where you go, if you take the little dolly away, they lose interest. And then suddenly they get to that age where they go, it's behind the curtain. Where did it go? They're still looking. But there's an actual moment where this idea of objects existing, that they kind of go, there's another one where they go, can a child understand that there are different points of view? Those of you who know these research will know this. So you have a little toy or something, and you have another little figure, like a little doll or something, and you can literally sort of say, oh, look, the little doll is going behind there. Oh, now the little doggie's gone behind there. What? You can see what sort of thing. I mean, they do this in different ways. So the idea is the development of a theory of mind comes out through this, through childhood developmental psychology. Like, how do children start to develop ways of making models of the world, being able to move around different perceptual positions. So I suddenly thought, and I started making this list, kind of, well, it's like that, and it's like that, and I said, I knew this list. Where is this list from? And this list, although I have amended it and added things to my own purposes here, is the basis of the list in the encyclopedia written by Robert Dilts and Judith about new code NLP. Well, that's really interesting, because they just make this sort of 5 key things. I mean, you might make a different map, but these are some of the key things in Turtles All the Way Down, the work that was done to sort of coalesce and bring together the core elements in NLP that sort of make it work. I mean, obviously, you could add things like outcome orientation, all the choice and things, but I suddenly thought, oh, this is like how I can explain it. I can hang it off this list. So just to say in terms of what you already know, so here we've got this idea of state. So in NLP, again, developmentally, you've got this idea, can people be at their best? Can they maintain performance? That is an issue about a kind of maturation. It's about being able to hold a certain state stable in a system. So you've got these states that certainly are at the core of our practice, modeling state, a know-nothing state, a kind of opening state, many different states around learning and, focus and awareness. And we're working with states a lot. And in fact, I was just saying to Jonathan, it's very, very interesting that so much certainly since I started learning NLP in sort of the late 80s, which seems like a long time. Oh my God, I'm 51! It's all over! It's kind of converging now with the neuroscience that we have on this idea of state. This came up in our last masterclass on stress, anxiety, depression, and we're going to do something about open coaching states, how to soothe down survival flare-ups, triggers, fight, flight, freeze kind of flare-ups, as it were, and explore those more. But certainly this idea of emotional regulation is one of the things, isn't it, that you can kind of manage yourselves And that is something that we've been teaching right from the very beginning. You know, what's a performance state? What state does an athlete need to be in? What state does a speaker need to be in? You know, how would you like to be? What's a resource state you'd like to have? We've been moving around this very experiential dimension of how we feel and what that kind of allows us, how that allows us to be and to perform. You know, right from the very beginning, I think it's a really important part of a developmental model in NLP. Conscious-unconscious relationships. Oh, I have to put these in the wrong order. So there's the thing that Erickson said. The only problem people have is they're out of rapport with their unconscious mind. And we have so many practitioner-level tools. So in the same, we've got lots of practitioner level tools that state, you know, anchoring, lots of techniques, change personal history, VK dissociation, you know, chaining anchors, blah, 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 new code, thingies, you know, loads and loads of stuff. Walk of Power and Grace, we've done, you know, lots of stuff. Here, of course, we've done, you know, things like hypnotic, you know, talking to the unconscious, finding special language, but also things like sit-set reframing is about building relationships between what Bateson called the diverse parts of mind. You know, there's a part of me that is like running its own program, as it were. And I want to like bring it somehow back into the fold in some new integrated way with more choice, more flexibility, more kind of possibility about what can happen. So that idea of chunking up to positive intention, it's such the most magical move ever in terms of this unconscious-conscious interface. It's like, what's really, you know, what is the intention of that? So that at one level, the behavior you want to change, but like what's driving it? And the same thing with the idea of, you know, conflicting selves. You know, at practitioner level, we have that model. On the one hand, this, on the other hand, that. You know, we have models about conflicting beliefs, conflicting values, and being pulled in different ways. That is a conscious-unconscious sort of issue, isn't it? You're sort of out of rapport with yourself. It's like experientially, you have the experience of somehow being fragmented. This is a pathological multiple personality, where you go, oh, you know, the different things I want are not related. They're not in communication with each other. They're not connected. So again, there's that sort of chunking up to what is shared, chunking up to values and intention, and then sorting things out at another level. But it's done very much in this kind of unconscious, retrieving somehow a sense of the inner energy that is driving things. And of course, that is about expert performance as well. You know, when we're thinking about learning, if anything, NLP is about an accelerated learning, how to learn well, how to become expert, how to manage expert performance, how to integrate your skills so they're just natural. That's relationship between conscious and unconscious. So that your behavior, the things that you're able to do, the way in which you're able to do is kind of streamlined. There's a spontaneity there. There's an artistry there. There's a sense of mastery, you know, of flexibility, of going with the flow, of being open to experience, of making a worthwhile contribution. All of that congruence is part of this. So perceptual positions, obviously, and again, just to say unconscious, conscious, I mean, this is where Freud was, you know, looking at, well, what's happening? You've got these sort of different aspects of a person that are out of sync with themselves. This person's almost out of sync with themselves. They're neurotic, or they're, you know, they're projecting. They're unaware of these sort of deeper kind of experiences and motivations. They've become disconnected from them in various ways. The perceptual positions model is, again, the issue of can you feel empathy? Can you step into someone else's shoes? I think this is a developmental type issue. And doubtless those of you who are coaches have found that with your clients or with yourself, that somehow the issue was to help someone kind of fully get that someone else is having a different experience. They don't see it like you do. And you can hold that, you know, you can hold that in a comfortable way. You can attune to it. You can appreciate it. You can acknowledge it. It can move you. It can move you in your heart. But these two are developmental type issues. Can you actually step into other people's points of view? Or are you all self, like like small children are, for example? It's the kind of regression where you're just a defended self. I think also the issue of, certainly in that book with Ochulas, it's a very interesting thing where he takes people through stages, and one of them is what we would call second position, another one is what we would call third position, as a developmental type issue, that you do have that kind of perspective. You are able to stand away from the problem and see yourself and see the way that the kind of dynamic is happening with you and other people. Sorry, I've moved off of my... Muriel says, and you... it's not very well trying to video someone, but...
A nailer to the floor.
You tend to move. So again, I think that, that's the basis of emotional and social intelligences. Again, these are developmental models in our world, not so much the Freudian model, although obviously there is so much of value there. We're not so much dealing with sort of Piagetian, but obviously we're with Maslow, self-fulfillment and all of those kinds of things. But I think the intelligences model is a very interesting developmental model of our times. To go, oh, we've got these multiple ways of, being in the world and developing ourselves in some way, in an integrated way. A lot of research done on all of them. And that's sort of at the heart of NLP in so many ways. And then multiple description, what I put here is the ability to form and hold different mental maps of a situation. And that's created from taking different perceptual positions or from different map systems of knowledge. So that is where humour comes from, and genius. That is a kind of agility and flexibility cognitively. You're able to move meanings around. You're able to see, you're able to describe things in different ways. You haven't just got this one label or this one story or this one way of talking about something in your life. You can use, reframing, you can use language. This is a core neuro-linguistic programming. Part of what we're learning is how can we use our words to create change, to create different ways that people can perceive and attribute meaning to things in some new ways, in some transformational ways. And then the last one, perceptual filters, enhancing our senses. Again, core NLP, enhancing our senses. This is part of the multiple intelligences kind of work, isn't it? But how do you enhance your visual intelligence, your auditory, your somatic intelligence, your verbal intelligence, etc., etc. But also this is like meta-programs. How do you find out about yourself and other people's filters? How are you filtering the world? And can you play around with that in terms of, working with different thinking styles and working in different cultures and being able to speak to and influence and motivate and connect to very different ways of being in the world, so that you are really expanding and developing your sense of what it's possible for a human being to be able to do. And for me, I thought this made a really great little package of going, yes, actually, NLP isn't just a series of techniques. It's a lifelong, multi-level journey into acquiring and enriching, expanding and enhancing these kinds of skill sets and a deeper understandings of these tools and models into, however long we have, right to the end, hopefully. So I wondered if anybody wanted to comment on that. I don't know, Ben, you train NLP and, what, I don't know whether that's something you'd ever thought of.